Coghlan is the rare Adtech leader who actually opened the hood, saw the 24,000 reseller nonsense underneath, and said, yeah, we're not doing this anymore. She helped build ADCP, treats AI like supervised interns instead of magic, and has no problem calling out waste, fraud, and the industry's bad habits. This is the ADOTAT Show, and today we're talking to the person quietly rebuilding the future of digital advertising.
Multi-billion-dollar complex federal court litigation. We do it day in, day out. And we've built a team dedicated to doing nothing but keeping you safe in the most dangerous litigation in the world. We're comfortable where everybody else is horribly uncomfortable.
And with the litigation piece, we bring the compliance piece, right? That's what I'm adding. That's what my entire team is adding. We've built TCP, a world only for you folks to help you folks out.
I'm Coghlan, and this is the ADOTAT Show. With me is Coghlan, Scope co-founder, climate data evangelist, and architect of AdCP, the ad context protocol that lets robots haggle over media buys while humans pretend to supervise. It's either most important infrastructure since RTB or the moment that machines realize they don't really need our permission. So, first of all, what is really happening here? Is this the moment that Adtech finally fixes itself?
I mean, that is the problem that we're trying to solve. I think that we've been watching AI be sprinkled on top of all of the existing Adtech paradigms, and the group of people that came together to build and figure out, what a new protocol would look like is definitely trying to solve a new problem. Solve all problems in a new way.
Is there going to be a point where I need to call you or Brian to get my Wi-Fi password because my Agentic AI has changed it?
Definitely don't think so. First of all, I know that your Wi-Fi password is serving you ads, and I also, built into the protocol is this idea of a human in the loop. So I think we're pretty far away from fully autonomous agents. I kind of think about agents right now as our smart interns. So imagine you had an intern. When they first start working for you, you give them tasks, you see how they go, but you're not exactly giving them full reign to, fully run your show for you. It would definitely be a journey of you giving them additional rope over time.
Like, what does this mean when agents talk to like a normal person? Like, how would you explain that? Because half this industry really still can't define a cookie without a PowerPoint.
I mean, if you literally think about if you had someone that you have given really clear guardrails and instructions to, and you say, hey, go and buy this from me, my agent, my An agent, goes to you and says, hey, I want to buy this from you. What do you have? And the agent that you have told what you have starts to have a conversation. So I think it's actually, you can think about it almost like two humans conversing through a really good set of guardrails. The only difference is they are machines communicating, and they have been given like the rules of engagement by us, the actual humans.
Okay, is there actually an example where this has been done yet? Where there's actually been a media buy done through two agents talking, or is this still just like in the excitement phase?
It's definitely beyond the excitement phase, although I think we're all still excited about it. We're actively testing the first media buys at the moment. So we don't have results, but we have live sales agents. So not other constituents within the initial adopters of AdCP. And then as Scope 3, we have our buyer agent, and their initial tests being conducted this quarter. And kind of looking forward to showing the results of those. So
programmatic was supposed to streamline everything, became a bureaucratic thicket where every intermediate charges. AdCP has showed up, and it promises direct advice and infinite scale. We both heard this before. What makes this one different?
I think if you think about programmatic, that's the real benefit of programmatic is the scale, right? It was kind of invented to solve the problem of remnant inventory. But what it doesn't do is do scale with the richness of what publishers have to offer. If you think about like the AI native nascent surfaces, imagine the kind of media buying opportunities that we'll be seeing in a year's time. Even now, like, could you buy a drone show experience?
If last touch attribution worked, your waiter would take full credit for your meal. We make sure the chef gets credit too. Incremental.
And the drones turn it to the beverage that you're selling. Like, how would you transact that in the programmatic world? You can't. So there's a scale thing, but then there's also a scale plus the richness of execution that publishers can promise, where you kind of right now can't have both. You can either have a direct IO or you can have like programmatic scale. And so the idea of AdCP is that you can have agents on the sell side talking to agents on the buy side in a way that means that you can see the creative and media working together really, really well, and also be able to do that with very little to no need to do custom integrations, because we have this protocol that's open source that anyone can use. And then also the nuance and the ability for agents, I guess, to engage in dialogue means that you can have that richness that doesn't have to be translated into very tight, rigid taxonomies.
So why keep humans around at all?
Well, first of all, as I said, definitely not at the point of autonomy. And I think there's a deeper philosophical question there of what makes a human and what makes AI not human. I think you're getting to like a point around creativity. I think there's definitely, if you think about the guardrails that you're essentially giving to an agent to act on your behalf, to reason, but within certain restrictions, there's kind of creativity there. And then in the advertising ecosystem specifically, what does it mean to engage with your consumer or your potential consumer? That's not about the pipes. That's about being able to figure out what the brief even should be to find your people as a marketer, and then make sure that that is as close as possible to what actually gets executed. So by making the how that happens and how you get those two pieces to come together, great for the agents. And it's almost like at the two ends, that's where the human magic can continue to happen.
So I love these hypotheticals. So picture this: Nike's agent meets Spotify agent on a date, let's just say, over obviously programmatic Tinder. They connect over a shared love of purchase intent data. They plan a cross-platform campaign while you're still on a Zoom call. Who owns that deal when something breaks? Who gets sued when the AI accidentally targets funeral playlists with sneaker ads?
Yeah, so I mean, as part of that media buy transaction, there is all of the I'm trying to put it into your dating analogy there. There's everything that the Spotify agent is offering to the Nike buyer in terms of what the package looks like. So, what the podcasts are, what the things are that are going to be associated to the environment that the ad is going to be served in, what the ad content is, all of like the ad space is, all of that stuff. And so there's definitely within the protocol, let's check that works. And then there is obviously going to be the governance and the know your customer, making sure that that kind of does fit together in terms of who gets sued. Did you say, that there are always, the almost like rules of engagement and the contract that is essentially the agreement between the two parties. And so if one of the parts of the rules within the contract isn't adhered to, someone doesn't pay someone else, the ad is served in a place that wasn't aligned with what the media buy was expected to be, then that would be a breach.
Yeah, let's say a few years from now, AdCP works amazing and half the industry goes extinct. Is that going to be called progress or creative destruction?
But I think it depends on what goes extinct. So I think the way that I see
It's not my job, it's okay.
No, but I mean, I think the way that we see, like, what is the problems with the ecosystem is like crap, waste. Right now, like AI slop is a huge issue. It's like the evolution of made for advertising. If that half is the half that goes away, happy days. That's what I'm here for. That's what I'm trying to do, is kind of fix the inherent brokenness, the obfuscation, the unnecessary complexity of the ecosystem. So to me, that's the bad half. People that add, or companies that add no value to the ecosystem. Let's get rid of that.
Right, so I want to move on from robots pretend to be rational to humans pretend to be ethical, and talk a little bit about greenwashing in 4K. I actually recycle, obviously, mostly punchlines. You make carbon data sexy enough for the C-suite. You're the reason that brands now say scope 3 without thinking it's a tax form. Let's be real here. Adtech loves morality until it threatens margins. How do you tell who actually wants to decarbonize digital media and who just wants to put it on their deck?
So I think there's two really interesting insights in that. One is who wants to put it on their deck? I think actually there's a problem when you think about brands of green hushing. So particularly in the last year and a half, people don't want to talk about sustainability. They don't want to make claims around the things that they've done from a sustainability more broadly perspective, like packaging, etc., or from a carbon emissions perspective, because they are worried that it's not good enough, or they'll get called out, or there'll be claims against them of greenwashing. So actually, that is kind of a challenge that we've seen at Scope 3 since we founded the company. And then I think the other thing is that it has never been the way that we have gone to companies about sustainability by saying, you should do the right thing. Look at this, look at how bad this is. You should be more efficient in the way that you buy and sell media because there is a massive climate problem and carbon emissions can help solve that. That doesn't work for profit-driven companies. There needs to be a connection between doing the right thing and hitting business objectives. It's not going to be anything I can persuade anyone to do something that's good if their KPIs at the end of the quarter are tanking, they're losing revenue, it's bad for business. And so what we've actually seen is to flip the narrative is actually the most important thing. So you don't come for the sustainability and stay for the better outcomes. It's the other way around. You see the sustainability benefits because of all of the other reasons that you have been using the data as a lens by which you can kind of cut through the noise of crap, of buying things that actually don't add value overall, and also they're bad for the environment.
Has there anyone actually done it because of, let's say, emission data, cut partners, shift in inventory because it was right, just not because it was cheap?
I think I've seen a couple of examples where brands have had websites on an inclusion list that they don't want to be there, and they haven't been able to find the reason, like the justification in the data to be able to remove those. And so it's been a good conversation opener and finisher with their agency partner. But I would say in the majority of cases, it's been about looking at performance and then seeing the carbon reduction as a consequence. And that continues into thinking about agentic media buying and selling as well.
So you probably deal with a lot of brands that announce zero emissions by 2030 while buying the dirtiest inventory on earth. How do you call that out without being uninvited for their RFPs, or do you just hand them a mirror in a Scope 3 report?
Yeah, it's definitely a massive education piece to show and open people's eyes to recognizing that there is inventory that has really high emissions, and getting them to see the fact that if they're thinking about true KPIs and true outcomes, they should be really not buying that stuff anyway. A lot of the worst inventory, like an MFA, is really, really good at having excellent CTR, for instance. And, that's not necessarily a metric that's a true outcome and indicator of real sales lift. So there's a massive education piece that goes into it.
So I've seen how many hands touch a dollar before it reaches a publisher. It's a miracle the money even shows up. I want a real number here. How much of every ad dollar is actually wasted on friction, fees, and flat out fiction?
The last A&A report was 41%, I think, working media.
Is that low or high?
I think it's stable, but I think it's not great, right? I think you add, as soon as you have multiple intermediaries that have multi-digit take rates, and then you're adding data and you're adding other fees in, that is definitely hurting the publisher. I think you'll also see that publishers are not able to properly monetize their assets because the things that are expensive, like homepage takeovers, rich experiences, first-party publisher data, are not transactable in the programmatic ecosystem at scale. So, thinking about fewer intermediaries in the supply chain, like single-digit take rates for the few players that are in there, and then making sure that kind of the richness of signal kind of stays at the ends versus being muddied out in the middle, where people start to have to compensate by adding in proxies, which is more fees.
So what's the most ridiculous inefficiency you've actually witnessed in the wild? Something like a stack of vendors charging technology fees for timestamp. A story that made you go, the system totally deserves an exorcism.
Yeah, the one that stands out to me the most is when we were initially building out our supply graph to figure out, the number of intermediaries, the number of resellers that were enabled on a particular publisher. I think we saw, it was like 24,000 or something resellers for one site. We were like, there's a bug. There's a bug in our code here because the average is still really high. It's like 50 something. It wasn't a bug. It was 24,000. So that was crazy. I think in general, the, resellers selling to other resellers, hops back and forth. It's incredibly inefficient. It's trying to game the auction. It makes it even harder for a brand to know where their money's gone, because even trying to stitch together those data sets is an expensive task from a getting the data perspective from all of the different players, and it's just bonkers.
Can you tell me what where simplified actually work, where a brand or publisher cut the stack and saw performance improve? And what exactly did they remove?
So within programmatic, it's about finding the most direct path and actually just removing.
Can you put that in contracts? Do people do that now? No, they don't. Why not? Why don't we just have like in the standard contract, we're only taking like one or two steps?
Well, there's like, this is our approved supply partner. Like, we'll only buy this publisher through one of these 2 or 3 approved SSPs. Fine. But that publisher could still have like 50, 60 SSPs, and they're still calling every single one of those on an auction by auction basis. They might be calling each other. And so, that's not ideal. I think the kind of initial tests that we're doing on Agentic and the media buying and selling, like, that's much more of a direct connection, and I'm curious to really see the results of the first tests.
So if Adtech were religion, what would be its original sin? Is it data hoarding, fake metrics, or pretending to actually care about outcomes? And is AdCP a reformation or it's a requiem? Requiem. Sorry.
That's a great question. I think AdCP feels like maybe it's a new, like a new branch of religion,
New Age
denomination, New Age, that I think is a definite.
So it's
broad
like
and open.
some form of druidry. Yes, druidry. Druidry is the word. Yes.
But I think it's
and Coghlan the druid. That's not
a broad and open church, I would say.
Right.
And then in terms of original sin, I think that
I think it's called what, Unitarians?
Say that again?
Unitarians, I think, like the big open churches.
Great. That's what we're going for. I think original sin, I think there's definitely a forgetting about who the ecosystem is actually meant to serve.
And
so kind of
what's the answer to that? What's the answer to that then? For those that don't know, what is the answer?
Who is it trying to serve?
Who is the ecosystem supposed to serve? Publishers or advertisers?
I think both. I mean, I was at a European Commission conference, kind of closed door session, where people from the industry were trying to educate the European Commissioner around different laws. And it was really just publishers and advertisers, and then like a few industry bodies. I was there. And it was literally like advertisers and publishers were almost literally reaching across the table to each other, being like, we want to work together more. We want to figure out how we can collaborate more effectively, because ultimately advertising should be respectful of the consumer, and we've kind of lost our way a little bit.
So if you could Thanos snap one layer of the ecosystem out of existence, who would vanish first? SSPs? DSPs, or the word premium?
I think the word premium, because then I would want to banish everything that was really crap, which we've talked about already. So there should just be an easy button. Don't buy all of the rubbish stuff. If you're a brand, you should be able to tell your agent, this is all the things that I want to buy. Go and talk to these sales agents. This is my enclosed, safe fabric marketplace. You don't need the word premium anymore. It's just inherently good.
So you've scaled Scope 3 Sorry, you scaled scope 3 faster than most ad tech companies can write a mission statement. Growth's seductive, but it's also a trap. Every startup wants to save the world until revenue arrives. How do you grow something meaningful without turning it into the thing that you set out to destroy?
Purpose and really strong knowing what the mission and the goal is. I think what we've been doing a lot at Scope 3 is thinking about not just ourselves, but also our position in the context of lots of other players within the ecosystem. It's about collaboration. Like we can't win alone. We have to be bringing others along the journey with us, and also like learning about how to make the journey better with other parties. And so I think the 20 plus companies that are part of the AdCP consortium is a good reflection of that. We can't do our little thing in the corner. We have to be galvanizing and creating a movement, and that's something that I'm particularly passionate about.
So tell me more. You said no to a deal that actually looked really great on paper but smelled like mission drift. And what did that teach you about restraint in an industry that treats scale like salvation?
Yeah, we've done this a few times. I think kind of two buckets. One is definitely does this align with our values? Like, do we think that in 5 years' time, this company, or even do we think right now, this company is actually adding value to the ecosystem? Would we go to a brand or an agency and say, hey, you should work with this company because we really deeply believe in what they're doing? So there have been a couple of examples where we've done that. And then I think another example is where it's a deal that is like, it looks really good on paper. It's definitely, gonna help us hit our revenue number for the quarter or even for the year, but it is not directly aligned with our strategy. And maybe it could lead to something that could lead to something else that could lead to something else, but it would require us to assign resources to where we're not actually heading. And so we've kind of decided that it's not worth the investment, even though at first glance, yes, let's do it.
So I'm bored, so I'm going to drop you on a desert island with no Slack, no email, no team meeting fountains, just you, a coconut, and the sound of your anxiety.
Okay.
So you're stranded on this island with one ad tech tool, one book, and one song. What do you bring to stay sane?
I think Adtech tool is pretty hard because they are all interconnected. So if I have one, I don't know what I'd do with it because I can't talk to anything else. So maybe, I don't know, can I have a second book that's a book about Adtech?
That makes sense.
Okay.
Right.
And then I think, so it was another book. I think I would also want to maximize word count while I was on the desert island. So I'd probably pick like a tome, like an anthology of something. So like mythology of something that I would like to know more about that I don't. So like Greek mythology or Irish mythology or something would be interesting. There we go. And then song, I think I'd probably something that I just listen to forever and ever is something classical, like the first movement of Beethoven's Third Symphony or something like that. But if it had to be a song, I would go for Bonnie Tyler, Total Eclipse of the Heart, because I cannot not dance to that song.
Is there actually anything from your career that you think would actually help with survival?
I mean, definitely the thing I like most about being co-founder, being a leader, just generally working at and being heavily involved in product and strategy is problem solving. So I guess if either I'm trying to survive and make the desert island the best possible place to live, or I'm trying to get off the island and help someone to the kind of problem solving and connecting the dots and seeing the system would probably be the thing that would hopefully hold me in good stead on the island. And I'd hope there'd be lots of trees because I burn, so I'd need to stay in the shade at all times.
You talk a lot about balance and sustainability. Does anyone in AdTech actually rest, or are we just venting fancier ways to justify burnout?
I think define rest. I used to think that resting meant that I had to like lie on my sofa or lie on my bed and not do anything. I think now for me, rest is about doing something else, and usually that's exercise or an activity or something that actually I think I always have problems ruminating in my subconscious somewhere where I get those flashes of insight that I need. I think it's hard to figure out as an individual your work-life integration. We talk about that a lot. It's difficult when you're working across time zones to know what works for you from a burnout, from a tiredness, from a connectivity. I certainly feel energized when I'm talking to people all the time. I'm happy to take a late evening call, but I also need to make sure that I balance time with my family.
If the island had an economy, do you think your currency would be attention, data, or cat memes?
Is it an economy on the island, or am I like trading off the
Well,
island?
it has to be just island, just intra-island.
Island economy. What I personally know best would probably be attention or data. I don't know if I could buy or sell memes. I don't think memes that make me think of NFTs, and so I'm not sure that works super well. So I would go for a data.
So moving on, you're a founder, parent, climber, and usually for this industry, you're a functioning human. I want to understand what drives you when the metrics stop and the Wi-Fi cuts out. Who are you trying to be when you're not trying to rewrite the operating system of this industry? And do you ever get to stop thinking? Do you ever stop thinking, or is your brain permanently wired on?
I'm always thinking. I sometimes wake up in the middle of the night and have a thought and then go back to sleep straight away.
Right.
Yeah,
That's what my voice notes are for.
I should do that. Try and cram in a lot of things. I guess I'm a functioning human. I think everyone has their own definition of functioning, but I definitely try to make time for my team, my colleagues, my co-founders. And what energizes me and what keeps me going is that we are trying to actually solve a problem in a new way rather than trying to, paper over the cracks and say it's cool. That's what keeps me going.
Who would you say negotiates better? Is it a media buyer or is it a toddler? You're a toddler.
Oh, my son is 5 and now, so I think he's not a toddler anymore.
They do grow. Yeah, normally.
They grow. He is very good at limit testing and negotiating. I've never actually negotiated against a media buyer because I've always been building tech and solutions for media. Definitely going to say my 5-year-old. He's
like master of chaos and snacks.
Master of chaos, snacks, and he knows me too well. He knows me almost better than I know myself to get what he wants.
What lesson from parenting do you think has made you a better chief operating officer, and what lesson from leadership just doesn't work with kids?
I think it's interesting because I've been a founder almost as long as I've been a parent, and so I've been learning both things at the same time.
Right.
First time parent, first time co-founder.
But you never accidentally put diapers on Brian, for example.
Definitely not. That thankfully is not something that has ever happened or ever will happen. I think the curiosity in seeing something through someone else's eyes is amazing as a parent.
We're talking again about the toddler, not Brian.
Talking about the toddler. I do really like to see the world through Brian's eyes, actually, because I think he has really unique and insightful perspectives. And
they always say, I think it's a very Zen-like idea that you're supposed to see things like a child would, with being completely open. And I think Brian does do that. He's very open-minded.
Very open-minded,
obviously you are too.
Very curious. And I think
again, like a toddler.
Yeah, but that's something question.
In a good way. Again, without the diapers.
Exactly. And so I think that's probably something that's really, I'm going to laugh a lot now. That's something that's good. I think something that doesn't translate. You say children are quite irrational. I think all humans are. But I think, one of the important things about leadership is making decisions. And 5-year-olds 3 minutes later will ask you to overturn your decision. Whereas that happens a little bit less when you're working at a company.
So I want to clarify, you're a real climber, literal mountains, not corporate climbing. How does that risk and rhythm actually help you in shaping a company?
I think a couple of things. So the first one is I'm not a very good climber. And so
this sounds exceptionally dangerous.
Well, no.
Like, I want to go on a flight with the pilot goes, I'm not really a good pilot. I'm not sure.
I don't put, if I'm outside, someone else puts up the rope and I go. If I'm inside, indoor climbing, I will do the rope. But I think that there's definitely something around resilience and being able to voice that I don't know something. Like, help, I'm scared. What do I do? Where do I put my hand? I can't see the path forward. And so I think that's something that's quite humbling. As someone that I like to think I'm pretty competent at lots of things, and it's really helpful as a leader. I don't think leaders need to know or should know or can know all of the answers. And so that's something for me that is really helpful, actually, to remember that I don't have all the answers. And the reason why we have amazing people that work at Scope 3 and amazing collaborators within the AdCP community is because other people have good ideas and we can work together on those. And then I think the other thing on risk is, you just said, that's scary that you don't sound like you're very good. A lot of it is perceived risk. So in climbing, yes, your equipment can fail, but there are so many checks. There are so many safety things that you do. You check your rope, you check your thing, you check your partner to make sure that they've secured you properly. You check all of the equipment as you go up. And so, you hear obviously horrible stories, but usually there's something very freaky that's gone wrong. And so it's perceived risk. And I think a lot of the time, when we're making tough decisions in the moment, or we're in a meeting and it's, intense and there's, we have to solve this problem because otherwise things won't happen tomorrow. There is a really nice thought experiment in the moment of, is this Jeff Bezos calls it, a door that you can walk through and come back out again, or a door that's closed? So I think the perception and reality around risk is a helpful quantifier that I've learned through climbing a lot.
So Brian's number was 100 million. He says he doesn't need to make more than 100 million. Do you have a number, and will you just take the rest that he doesn't want?
Yeah, I mean, I've always said, I think it's probably less than that. I'm not someone that's hugely ever been motivated by money or title or I think maybe culturally as well in the UK, we don't really talk about ambition very much. And I've never sat down and said...
You don't want to be knighted, OBE or anything?
No. I couldn't be knighted. I think you'd be a dame if you're a woman. So
no, I still think you're a knight.
Okay.
I think the female knight is a dame.
I think my son would be happy if it meant that I could wear armor.
Right. I think you can wear armor regardless of whether you're knighted, by the way.
I could. Okay, it's my next year.
I think there's a whole subsection, subculture, I think, called ska that does that.
Okay, there we go.
Right, it occasionally mixes with Adtech, which is very weird in itself.
I think, so for me, the impact is not how much money I make. The impact is how, I don't love the word legacy, but it's knowing that I'm doing something with other people that put something forth into the world that actually matters and is good and important.
So you think that's impact, integrity, or peace?
Not peace. I think impact and integrity. And I was listening to Brené Brown a few weeks ago, and she said that leaders have to pick 2 core values. You can't have 3, you can't have more, you have to pick 2. I think integrity is definitely one of mine. And I'm trying to think about the other one. Maybe impact is a good one.
And now the fun part is when we first sit down.
Okay.
And that wraps today's episode of the ADOTAT Show. A huge thank you to Anne Coghlan, who didn't just explain ADCP, she dissected the mess the industry tiptoes around and showed us what the future looks like when someone finally rebuilds the pipes instead of decorating them. From the 24,000 reseller insanity to MFA waste to carbon math, she walked us through the chaos with the calm authority of someone already designing its replacement. Thanks as always to Troutman Armin, the legal adults in the room, and to incremental.com, proving that measurement doesn't have to require therapy afterward. I'm Pesach Latin. This has been the ADOTAT Show. Stay bold, stay curious, and know more than you did yesterday.